that we were ready to take the fight to them in all seriousness, and we were moving into proper voter formation. So this is a very important province because a lot of its children went to war, a lot of sacrifice happened within its environs. So taking the conference to Manicaland is very important to us as a party because it really connects us with the ethos of sacrifice, which defines us as Zanu-PF.
Now, Farai, it's very important that you talk about the history and the memory that Manicaland does hold. I mean, you have mentioned the liberation struggle and all that was involved in that attainment. Now, my question then would be, what does this historic memory, what part does it play in consolidating the party identity and legitimacy here in Zimbabwe?
There's an adage that says a tree without roots cannot stand. We can never move forward or deal with today or plan for tomorrow unless we are well cognizant of our past. And there's nothing more definitive of our past than the two liberation struggles that we had, the first Chimurenga and the second Chimurenga, as well as the defeat of the Portuguese earlier on in the 16th century. These are our roots. This is where we take our pride from, because this is what speaks to us as a people, that we are able to face adversity and conquer. We are able to adapt. We are able to find a way through the most painful of circumstances. And when push comes to shove, and we put our hearts in it, nothing can conquer us.
Now, earlier we talked about resolutions, what Zanu-PF intends to do, what their plans are in terms of the conference, and it's now coming up. Now, I want us to go back a bit and talk about the resolutions or the solutions that you have come up with in the recent past, noting that the party says that many of these resolutions are multi-year and they overlap over cycles. So there are yearly targets, in quotes, that are reviewed and adjusted when necessary, not entirely to say when the year starts and then when the year ends, but rather when one project starts and one project ends. So then my question is, what frameworks and indicators would be then necessary in order to monitor and evaluate the implementation of conference resolutions over the multi-year span up until we get to Vision 2030?
Well, as you very well know, if you're setting targets, and these targets are set on empirical fact, these targets will have steps, guides, and so on, until the attainment of the final end result. So these are resolutions which overlap the years. They have certain targets within every year, which needs to be attained as we realize how fast we're moving towards that. So going to conference, it is going to be quite exciting, because with some of these resolutions, we find that we had already exceeded the yearly target and we have already moved into the second year target. So this is part of the buoyancy you're finding and the bullishness you're finding within the Zanu-PF membership, that the president has managed to enable us to attain our targets before the expected time. Mm-hmm. So we are really excited, and this is why you're seeing us speaking of a Vision 2030 as early as 2028, having attained that economic agenda. So this is essentially speaking to the fact that we are exceeding over and beyond our target. So when we meet at conference, we are meeting to see where we've attained our targets, the challenges we've encountered in setting that, the other probable challenges that may lie ahead, and then we strategize and plan for the following year to see how best we can again attain that target, hopefully within the year, not by the end of the year.
So last year, the party resolved to strengthen the Zimbabwean currency, the ZiG, Zimbabwean gold, and make it the country's sole legal tender. Now, there have been a lot of challenges involved in making sure that happens. We're talking of devaluations that have happened, inflationary pressures, as well as low public confidence. Do you think that enough is being done by the central bank in order to make sure that ZiG is the sole legal tender for this country by 2030?
The ZiG is a reality, and the ZiG is not going anywhere. It has proven itself. It has defended itself. For the first time since the year 2000, we've had a situation for the first time in Zimbabwe where we have a currency that is not run away collecting zeros. And as you can see, confidence is building gradually in the currency. And as the president has said, the president never speaks and fails to achieve what is spoken of. He has said that the ZiG is going to be the sole currency, and the ZiG indeed shall be the sole currency. The ZiG has proven itself, and the ZiG is here to stay.
Now, I want to continue unpacking some of the resolutions that you came up with in your previous conference, that's last year. On mining, the resolutions included amending laws to exclusive prospecting orders, EPOs as many know them, and allow others to prospect in EPO areas, enforcing a use it or lose it rather policy that was to help deter speculative title holding and digitizing the mining register. Now, many of these new measures that you came up with appear in the new Mines and Minerals Bill. As we approach now this year's conference, as we're going into it, are you satisfied that the bill really does align with the party's resolutions?
These are the issues that will be debated at conference, and these are the issues which will be the construct of new resolutions. So this is for the delegates when we go to conference to sit down, peruse, and decide. But in general, I think the impact of the bill can be seen, and how mining is opened up and more people are entering the fray. And as more and more people enter, it means that there is more and more focus. And with the bullish price of gold, this is the most wonderful news we can have as a country.
One of the biggest undertakings that have been happening in the recent past is the issue of infrastructure development, construction of dams, acceleration of road rehabilitation, upgrading of road networks, border posts, investment in national railways of Zimbabwe, doing all this so that we can promote trade, protect rehabilitated roads. These are some of the issues that are central to ZANU-PF's resolution. How can then Zimbabwe mobilize sufficient finance for these large-scale works? And how critical are local and foreign investments in ensuring that we deliver and sustain these projects?
Well, when it comes to these infrastructural projects, even going sector by sector is exhaustive, because what we have is a sector that is experiencing such phenomenal development. It is almost unbelievable when you look at the road networks, the pace at which they're developing. Right now, we're looking at the Blawayo to Big Falls network. We're looking at Matabeleland North, for example, having 7 dams being constructed as we speak. We're looking at Marwanyashi Dam, Chivu Dam. We're looking at even private sector infrastructural development. You go into any town, there is someone mixing a bed of cement and things are coming up. So when it comes to the issue of infrastructure, Zimbabwe is developing at a phenomenal rate. We're looking at the Tabablos interchange. We're looking at the Tabablos 2, which most media will be excited to be seeing as they go into Mtare, which has already started being constructed. We're looking at the border post towards Baira, which is now starting to prove to be going to be possibly one of our busiest, if not the busiest, border post in the near future. So when it comes to infrastructural projects, even if we go sector by sector, it is unbelievable. If you look at the number of clinics that have come up, this is all building. You look at the number of schools, satellite schools that have been properly built, providing a proper, healthy and environment for children to learning. So you find that from 2018 to date, the president has done phenomenally in terms of infrastructure, and he continues to do so. And as we go forward, Zimbabwe is going to be a very modern country. It is clear all the projects that are being set up are of international standard.
Okay, I heard you when you did say, you talked about infrastructure development. You say Trababelas 2?
Yes, Trababelas 2. This is going to be actually in construction at the Christmas Pass in Mtare, and it is going to divert trucks which will be going towards Mozambique from the Christmas Pass.
Okay, is that going to be
a sight to see? People are saying that it is going to be an even bigger spectacle than Trababelas 1.
Is that going to be the actual name, or is just a reference to say this is what we're talking about, this is what you want to do?
Until it is official, it is not, but once you start saying a name, it usually sticks.
All right, so let's talk about land tenure, the issue of title deeds holding. How might granting transferable title deeds to land reform beneficiaries really affect agricultural productivity as well as like investment opportunities or investment incentives? Because the party urges some speedy implementation of a new land tenure policy guaranteeing transferable titles to beneficiaries of land reform so that more local production of fertilizers and other farm inputs as well as presidential inputs can be then delivered to deserving citizens.
Indeed. The land tenure policy is a very emotive policy to us within Zanu PF. Because remember, this was our land and colonizers came and gave themselves title over our land and took us off our land and told us that we could no longer settle on our land. So there is nothing more important for a Zimbabwean that they have title over any piece of land that they have because this is our land. So over and above that emotive factor, in the realms of practicality, you look and see that when we look at these issues, we are looking at the advantages born thereof, the cashability of land, the ability to take loans against your land, which is the whole purpose of land. If we cannot push, we cannot put monetary value on our land, we are hamstrung. So this is indeed not only emotive, but a very important part of liberating the agricultural sector, financing the agricultural sector.
I want us to keep talking about infrastructure development. Let's just go back to infrastructure development just a bit. Energy infrastructure development. The issue of energy has been a very critical issue in Zimbabwe's economy, with most saying, power is either there or it's not there. It hasn't been that consistent. And currently, Zimbabwe is producing half of the power needs that they actually do need. There's some need to really generate more power generating projects. How critical is energy infrastructure on ZANU-PF's agenda?
This is one of our most important factors because, as you understand, the president is speaking of moving into a manufacturing economy. There cannot be no manufacturing or beneficiation of resources in the absence of energy. And you've seen a lot of private players have come into the realm of energy generation, and the president has been commissioning power plants across the country. So with that as it may, it is one of the most important things that we believe will be on the agenda because we need to expand our power generation to be happening at a pace which is commensurate with the economic development pace which has been set by the president. Because we need that power generation to power Zimbabwe's development and Zimbabwe's upward trajectory as a manufacturing economy.
Now, the informal sector, that's one of the also important issues or aspects that I might say are affecting Zimbabwe's economy. I'm sure you do know and do realize that Zimbabwe is informalizing, or most people are now in the informal sector. Now, there is a call for an action plan to reduce business costs, the capitalization of the venture capital fund in order to support startups, and policies to formalize the informal sector through enforcing appropriate laws. As ZANU-PF now, what are the main obstacles facing startups, small and informal businesses here in Zimbabwe? And then I want you to also touch on how can policies be designed in order to minimize negative effects, promote growth, as well as economic inclusion?
Well, the formalization of the informal economy continues, but you need to realize that this is a stop and go, and we learn and adapt as we go. Because at the same time as we formalize, we need to bring literacy to the participants within this sector and also conscientize them as to the importance of formalization. So this is an ongoing process, and as you know, the informal and what we prefer to call it the SME sector has been the backbone of our economic recovery. You see that it is the small-scale farmers that have been producing the majority of the grain. It is the small-scale miners that have been producing the majority of the gold. It is the small-scale tobacco farmers that have been producing most of the tobacco. So when most people look at the issue of these small-scale industries, they view them with a bit of disdain. But this is what has buoyed Zimbabwe to be where it is. This is the main driving force for economic recovery. So as we do this, we are ensuring that we protect this sector, we build it, we develop it, as we formalize it and bring it into the mainstream of the economy.
Apart from that, another very critical issue that has really affected the Zimbabwean economy is the issue of corruption. Farai, it has been a challenge that has been affecting service delivery in the country, and then it has also touched, or rather stunted, economic growth in some aspects. The conference, the Zanu-PF conference, provides a platform for the party to propose some concrete measures in order to deal with corruption. Do you think these measures that the party proposes will be key in ensuring that corruption is truly done away with in the country?
Corruption is definitely going to be a dying factor because the president himself has been very clear on his stance on corruption. We saw under his leadership the first time a sitting minister getting arrested. We have seen that doing a lot of phenomenal arrests. Zanu-PF has been very clear on its stance on corruption, and this has not been something that is hidden. We have a zero tolerance to corruption, and the president has ensured that there is no one who is above the law. There is no one who is beyond censure. And this is essentially what we believe as a party. However, we've also realized that with the issue of corruption, usually the people who have the material knowledge and facts of the crime are all beneficiaries of that crime. So as Zanu-PF, we're moving towards setting measures inclusive of AI and technology to counter the human factor, which prevents the continued propagation of corruption. So these are factors that are already being put in place. So what we're doing at conference, we'll be looking at how to add on to certain aspects and so on. But the fight against corruption is definitely going to be won. As Zanu-PF, we've never gone to war and lost.
Now, Farai, earlier you said that you were not going to tell me everything that is on the priority list when it comes to the discussions at the conference. But allow me to just try and get a question in real quick in order to just get an understanding of what's actually on the priority list. Issues of public health. It's a very big concern, the issue of public health service and public health services in the country, and public health delivery as well. Is that also going to be top of the agenda, or it's just going to be one of the other issues to be discussed?
Like I said, I'll not put the cart before the horse and tell you what is on the main agenda, but what I can tell you is what seizes us as a party as we speak today. Health is one of the main issues, which is why you've seen that the president has personally taken it upon himself to ensure that there is a modernization of our health facilities.
The party has a very strong zero tolerance to drug and substance abuse. The conference now introduces a big focus on this anti-drug and substance abuse campaign. Do you think that this is going to be enough in order to combat drug and substance abuse in the country? Now, when I say do you mean that, I am referring to the proposal that all party wings must adopt a zero-tolerance resolution on drug and substance abuse and advocate for a levy to combat this issue modeled after the AIDS levy that is currently there. Hello, Farai, are you still on the line? It seems we might have lost Farai. Farai, can you hear me? All right, seems we might have a connection problem with Farai Marapira's phone. We are just going to get to call him back in a bit, and the chase will be right back as we continue talking about the Zanu-PF National People's Conference. Stay with us.
Didn't graduate. I guess I blew it.
You couldn't advise him anything. He would just look at you and say, so who do you think you are?
We were just like really spoilt.
And then they just give me the receipt and I'd pay.
The guy walks in one day and then he says that he wants to make a movie.
He was blowing the money.
There was just like this habit that he had where as soon as he got money, it was gone.
I just didn't have the skills or the experience.
This money, I could see it disappear so fast.
Catch exclusive interviews every weekday for candid, exciting, and thought-provoking conversations with your host, Erika Ndoro.
We talk about arts, we can talk about sports, we can even talk about politics, and sometimes we venture into a nice guitaristic play. The one story where you can't get out of your head. Wakatarisa munhu so Erika, like where you're sitting. Ndozongokona bata face so pasina munhu.
Wakasiya music yako yo afro chakuti ndo music manje yemuZimbabwe.
And I'm sure they're still saying the same thing now.
Yeah, so
Shona kana kuti chindevere kana mumwe mutauri muno muZimbabwe ndiwe iwewe ndiwo rupawo rwako ndicho chidadiso chako.
Catch me, Erika Ndoro, right here on ZTN Prime every single Monday at 7 p.m. whilst we get exclusive.
The Phoenix Podcast has always brought you the best of the best.
I missed on that blessing, but I also regained it in some way.
In seasons 1 and 2, we introduced you to the industry's brightest stars, the ones at the top of their game, the creme de la creme. But season 3 promises to be even more exciting. We're bringing you even more fascinating guests, including the renowned farmer, Patrick Matadi. And to top it all off, our very own host, Ken Sharp, will be stepping out of the interviewer's chair and into the hot seat as he gets interviewed by a surprise guest host.
From the boss, we've been beaten, but we're not beaten yet. We can still rise.
Konapo Konapo, Ipapo Ipapo, by ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294, the place to be.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. We had lost Farai Marapira on the line, but I'm sure he's back now. Farai, can you hear us now?
Yes, thank you, Amia.
So before the break, or before we lost the connection, I was asking about the issue of drug and substance abuse. To say, do you think the introduction of a levy, just like the AIDS levy, but this one specifically modeled for the fight against drug and substance abuse, will be enough in order to fight and end the scourge?
Sorry, it was breaking.
All right, I'm saying a model that's something that's modeled after the AIDS levy, but specifically to help fight drug and substance abuse. Do you think that's something that we need in order to fight this scourge?
We might, I don't believe we are at a position where I can take what the party position on that matter is, whether we need a levy. But what I know is that the party, through its structures, has been very active on the ground, and we cannot have this conversation without giving special mention to the First Lady, Amaya Sile Mnangagwa, for the wonderful work she has done in the rehabilitation of drug-addicted youth within our country. So as a party, we have engaged our structures to educate the community, expose the drug hazards, and so on.
It's a good thing for right now that you mentioned the issue of youth inclusion and the development of the youth. Are they also going to be included in terms of the decision-making at this year's conference? Are you going to consider their voices or not really?
As a party, we take our ethos from the president. We have a listening president, so we are a listening party. We listen to all who have something to say. We consider all opinion. We consider all views. And as we are going to conference, not only do we take what our structures have said, we are also taking feedback from the rest of community and the rest of society who are our voters, because we remain relevant by always speaking to the needs of the people.
Let's talk about now the ZANU-PF Women's League. What substantive role can they play at the conference beyond just, ceremonial representation and knowing that they exist? And what barriers then still remain to translating Women's League resolutions into enforceable funded national policies?
the Zanu Women's League has never been ceremonial. That is one of our strongest wings. And under the leadership of our comrade Nomona, there has been phenomenal strides in ensuring that women are empowered. As we were speaking of the fact of empowerment throughout all sectors and structures of society, the Women's League, under the leadership of comrade Nomona, guided by the president, has been doing a lot of projects for women to ensure that women and the girl child are emancipated and connected to the economy, because it is known by all that ZANU-PF as one of its policies, the issue of ensuring that the women are also factored into the economy, the women are also factored in to politics in every aspect of human society.
Now, right before we can conclude and call it a night, I know that, a conference is not really, an elective Congress, but it does fall 2 years after the 2023 elections. And right now, you're now starting to build up to the 2028 polls. These conferences sometimes serve as like staging grounds for consolidating leadership and testing policy positions the way ahead of elections. To what extent do you think the 2025 then conference will serve as a platform to prepare for the 2028 polls?
Well, I don't think that the issue of Congress is in the minds of any amongst us. We are focused on the economy, and Congress is 2 years away.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So that means there might not be any discussions about that at all. It's simply an economic building conference.
No. We are focused on the economy. These are conversations manifested by other parties outside of ZANU-PF.
Okay. So that the standing is that's not what's on your agenda.
No. It is not on our agenda at all.
Okay. So ZANU-PF's resolutions historically include commitments to war veterans' welfare, erecting monuments, aligning party identity with liberation memory. This is part of ZANU-PF's ideology. What mechanisms then do you think the party should adopt at the conference to ensure veterans benefit and have a measurable social impact?
A lot has been done by the president to ensure that veterans of the struggle are connected to the economy. Veterans of the struggle are living in comfort as they deserve for the ultimate sacrifice of putting their lives on the line for the betterment of ourselves as a country. So essentially what we are looking at is continued connection of the war veterans. You find that they've been given exemptions on getting a title deed on their land when it comes to the payment of those title deeds. And so many other things, and so many other manner in which they're being connected. Because having proven to be steadfast ideologically as we fought for independence, they will be steadfast in ideologically guiding the new trajectory of ZANU-PF as we seek economic growth and development.
Dr. Before we can conclude and wrap up this conversation, anything you'd like to say to our audience before we call it a night?
We are well led, and as the party incited by the leadership of President Mnangagwa, he has done a lot in ensuring that we develop and we move forward as a party and as a country. We call upon all Zimbabweans to say, let us support him, let us stand with him, let us ensure that together as one, we attain all the goals which are sacrosanct and which guide us as a people and as a party towards our greater development.
Ofarai, strong words, strong parting words. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for just discussing this conference as it's now about to come through. I'm sure you're now just counting down the days until you can begin.
Indeed. Thank you so much.
All right, that's it. That's what we had for you on The Chase tonight. Thank you so much for making the time and for joining us. I was joined by Farai Marapira, Director of Information for Zanu PF, and I have been your host, Faith Nyaude. Good evening and enjoy the rest of your viewing.